Hey, all you can do is just tell the truth and trust in the American people that over time they're going to know what the truth is.
Yes, it is time for the truth. Right here, right now. This is the Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives. With your host, John Matthews.
It's a latter-day prophet, vying against the hypocrisies of our time.
And Joe Hakos.
You want answers. I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
The Conservative Syndicate is comprised of some of the most informed pundits and activists available today. Together, we seek to tear down the imaginary wall of separation between church and state through education, information, and engagement on the religion of politics and the politics of religion. And now, your host on the globally syndicated Conservative Syndicate, John Matthews and Joe Hakos.
All right, hey, how are we doing out there all across this great land of ours, around the world, and wherever it is you're at? Welcome to the Conservative Syndicate. It's election day, and I don't know, some people are feeling maybe good, some people are feeling maybe a little tepid, a little trepidation out there, whatever. I'm a little bit of both, a little bit of everything. I don't know what to expect. And we'll just see as the day plays out. But we're glad to have you with us today. We have a special show here. We're going to have all of our panel members checking in at various times during the show today. Geographically out there, we have Audrey Russo from Real Talk Radio up in New York. Joe Hakos, our co-host and my partner in crime here out there in the Panhandle in Florida. And then we have California well represented out here, Bob Cardosa and Don Dix out in the Inland Empire out here in Southern California. And, of course, here I am in L.A. County. So we're going to kind of try to get a feel for the atmosphere in these respective places. And, of course, bring you whatever we can in terms of updates or whatever. And right off the bat here, my big thing is the voter fraud. I'm just like, I am so convinced this is going on all around the country, and it started out trickling in a couple weeks ago, and I think it's just kind of snowballing. And I don't know. I, for one, hope that Donald Trump does not give in to the pressure to just concede. If at the end of the day we can sit here and look at this thing and say, no, there are some irregularities, especially in states like Pennsylvania and Florida. And Joe, you had some stuff you wanted to share with us, so let's kick it off with that.
Yeah, okay, good deal. Okay, so voter fraud. Let me give the folks here one thing. If they're out at the polls right now, then you should be. If you're listening to us, hopefully just listen to us out on your phone or whatever. But if you're listening to us and you haven't voted yet and you're out there, get out there after you listen to us, or at least take the time out and come back and listen to the archive. But I want you to listen to this right now. Voter Assistance Hotline. You see anything unusual going on at a polling place? Call 844-332-2016. That again, 844-332-2016. National Voter Assistance Hotline. So if you see that going on, that's the number to call. Okay, I probably should have given that to you yesterday, but sorry. Give us
that number again, Joe, one more time.
All right, that's 844-332-2016.
All right.
And as we're talking about voter fraud or possible irregularities, here's a report from Pennsylvania, out there in western Pennsylvania, just north of Pittsburgh, PA. A little voting irregularities going on, and we've heard about this stuff in other locations too. Here, let me just play the clip here, John. You ready?
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
Voting has been smooth and turnout has been heavy. Pennsylvania's Secretary of State says that he would not be surprised if voter turnout topped 80%.
However, there have been some scattered issues where voters are encountering problems. Rick Dayton joins us live now with what's happened at a polling place in Clinton Township, Butler County. Rick.
Christine, Stacey, turnout very heavy in Clinton Township, where people started lining up 30 minutes before the polls opened. But once they got to their machines, that's when they say the trouble started for them. Election judges confirmed there were issues with 2 of the 8 automated voting machines in the Clinton Township building. Most of the issues stemmed from people trying to vote straight party ticket. However, a number of voters told me that specifically they wanted to vote for the Republican Donald Trump, only to see their vote switched before their eyes to the Democrat Hillary Clinton.
So I went back, pressed Trump again. 3 times I did this. So then I called one of the women that were working the polls over, and she said, oh, you must be doing it wrong. She did it 3 times, and it defaulted to Hillary every time.
If somebody has an issue, they should certainly let the judge of elections at the precinct know, and also call their county bureau of elections and let them know, as folks have done here this morning.
Election judges say that many of the problems did come when people tried to vote that straight party ticket, but I had a number of people tell me they were trying to go vote by vote, race by race, only to see the candidate they selected go to somebody else. Now, they have recalibrated those machines. Election officials there in Clinton Township are confident that at this point the problem has been resolved. However, there are a number of people who told me just moments ago they're not sure that their vote went to the right person. We'll have much more on that coming up this afternoon on KDKA.
And that was from the CBS affiliate in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, KDKA. They were reporting that around noon Eastern time. So, you notice if you're trying to go straight Republican ticket, it defaulted to Hillary Clinton and the Democrat. And it's but what you didn't hear there is did you hear about any Democrat vote being changed to a Republican?
No, and we need to reiterate, this was the issue that we were hearing about a couple of weeks ago down in Texas with the early voting. The same thing. There were people that were complaining. I think we mentioned to you that there were one lady had called into the Rush Limbaugh show. I happened to have caught it because I was out on the road, and it just happened to be by coincidence. I listened to whoever is on the air at the time I'm out on the road. And she was saying that her vote actually disappeared. So there were 2 different complaints coming. Some of them were saying, if they tried to vote straight Republican ticket, that they found that their vote was being changed from Donald Trump to Hillary Clinton. And the other complaint was the people that voted the straight party ticket, when they went back to check, Trump was completely missing from the ballot. So and so that was I think that was the first report that really just kind of confirmed for us here at the Conservative Syndicate that there's something going on, that there's things being manipulated. And of course, we have the sudden surge. We talked about this yesterday. The sudden surge down in Dade County, down in Florida, Chaddsville. All right, and all of a sudden, 83,000 Hispanics registered and voted. Like overnight, 53,000. I'm sorry, I had the number wrong. 53,000 additional Hispanics, and the issue here with this.
Hold on there, John. Now, see, let me just tell you. Now, Florida law, as I'm in Florida, you must be registered to vote 30 days prior to the election. So you just can't go up a couple days before the election and register. That doesn't happen in Florida. I guess unless you're doing it illegally.
Right. Yeah, I know. That's the thing. Okay, here it is. Let me relay it to you the way that it's actually came out. This is from Bloomberg. Joshua Green over at Bloomberg. He says, Donald Trump's campaign has always understood that Florida is key to his electoral chances. At Trump's data headquarters in San Antonio, staffers run daily simulations that weight and rank the importance of each state. Florida is invariably on top. Miami-Dade County is the most important county in the country for Trump's chances, according to a campaign official familiar with these simulations. Mm-hmm. Now, what he's saying is, when I speak of importance, this is Brad Parscale. Parscale says, when I speak of importance, I'm stating that we have large numbers of persuadable voters there, meaning fence walkers. They're on the fence. They can be swayed one way or the other. But Dade County has a very large Hispanic population. Broward County has a very large black population. And this is where the eyes are on right now in terms of voter irregularities or the possibility of voter fraud. It says here there's 1.5 million registered voters in Miami-Dade County, 56% who are Hispanic. So 56% of Miami-Dade is Hispanic. And if we went over to Broward County, I think it's like 60% over in Broward County is African American. So, or black. I hate using that word African American. Black. They're black, all right? And I just do that because I don't believe in hyphenating. You know, I'm not Irish American. I'm American. My parents are Irish, but I'm an American. That's the way I look at it. Now they're saying here that the African American or the black turnout in Miami-Dade is lagging behind its 2012 pace. And that's one of the things I've been hearing is the black vote in most places is lagging behind. But when we get down here into this Florida area, there seems to be an exception to the rule. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact, as we reported here, that we have issues down there with Brenda Snipes, the election supervisor down there in Broward County. We talked about this yesterday. So I'm going to go back and just reiterate here that if Donald Trump just accepts, you know, if he loses Florida because of all the polls, and again, now you're going to say, I know some of you are going to say this. You're going to say, well, John, you've always told us the polls don't matter. Well, they don't until the last week of the election. Then you can kind of gauge what's going on. I mean, I'm not saying they're just dead on, spot on, but they're a lot more accurate than they are during all the propaganda buildup.
Hey, guess what an election is? It's a poll.
Yeah. So my point being is that I was trying to look for the numbers here. Scanning through this article, trying to find the numbers. Through Saturday, here it is. Through Saturday, 707,844 county residents had already voted. 44% were Democrats, 30% Republican, and 25% had no party affiliation. Mm-hmm. A group that tends to skew younger and Hispanic and thus towards Clinton. The demographic mix of early voters also looks highly favorable to Clinton, 58% Hispanic, 17% black, and 20% white. But the late registrants gives the clearest indication that sentiment in Miami-Dade is running strongly against Trump. Of the 29,
I don't get that late registrants because you have to be registered 30 days prior to the election.
Okay, well, they clarify that here. Of the 29,657 voters who registered last month, okay, 41% are Democrats, 44% are unaffiliated, and only 12.5% are Republicans. So they're saying that this sudden surge in the voter registration is looks like it's going to work towards Hillary Clinton. But I think the kicker in all this, I think Kellyanne Conway said it best when I watched her on CBS the other morning, and they were throwing all these things at her, all these numbers and everything. And they were asking her, is Donald Trump going to concede if he loses? That was the big thing. We got to get somebody on record here saying that Donald Trump is going to concede, so that if he doesn't, we can say, well, everybody in your campaign said you would, that kind of thing. And she said, well, what people just seem to discount is that most Republicans vote on Election Day. And, and that's why the numbers that we're hearing, I heard numbers anywhere between 5 and 7% margin there in Trump's favor. But we know that there is irregularities out there, just like Joe reported here in Pennsylvania. We talked about it in Texas, what went on there. We talked about Indiana, 187,000 changes on online voter registration data bank, and people just changing birth dates and names, things like that.
Yeah.
And this situation down here in Broward County, the GOP people down there are saying that if Broward County doesn't own up to the irregularities, which we reported yesterday, was that there are election workers actually marking ballots, absentee ballots, and sending them in. sending them in. And I tried to lay that out. I tried to lay the strategy out here. It took me a while to figure it out, but this is the way I see. This is the way I'm speculating it happened. We reported here on this show a couple weeks ago that Brenda Snipes reported, or somebody reported, that people were getting the ballots, the mail-in ballots, and the voter guides. And the voter guides were missing a page. And I think it was on one of their bond things or something. It wasn't the election, it wasn't for president or something. It was some, one of those other issues that you vote for, like a bond or something like that. And there was a page missing. Oh, I know. It was the legalization of marijuana. And the page was missing. And you guys are voting on that issue this year, Joe? Joe, you there? I'm not picking up Joe. Okay, anyway, so that's what we were hearing. That there was an issue that was on the ballot, and the page on the voter guide was missing. And so what happened was they began to send out new voter guides. And we found out that as they were sending out new voter guides, they were also sending ballots with those voter guides. And so what was happening was, so people are going to be able to vote twice. That was the implication. But not everybody got those ballots. And so my speculation led me to believe that what we were seeing is perhaps some of the ballots were held back and brought into the voter room where they were being marked and submitted as absentee ballots. That was my general idea. That was my speculation here. But the point being is that we have big issues with this. We have a big issue with some of the voter fraud or irregularities. North Carolina is another one. North Carolina's claiming voter intimidation or suppression, voter suppression. Why? Because there's long lines. People are upset that they got to wait in line. They don't think that they should have to be waiting in line. And so that's a big issue for them. And so they're saying that they reduced the number of polling places, and they did it to suppress the vote. Well, we explained that away by the fact that the federal government this year said that they weren't going to have as many oversight people, that the federal government wasn't going to have oversight there, which probably means that there's less money being sent to the states to conduct these things. And this leads into the bigger argument, the bigger debate as to what the federal government is doing, involving itself at the state level to any degree. There should be any involvement. Each state should be able to, if each state can conduct its own primary, whether by ballot or caucus or any other slates or anything else, why does the federal government have to get involved when it comes to on election day? Why are they even? What do we need federal oversight? Why do we need federal workers out there trying to determine what's going on? They have no business being there. That's up to the states. So all these issues here are leading us to believe that in places like Pennsylvania and Florida, Iowa, Indiana, Texas, Nevada's reporting some problems out there with the long lines, that kind of thing. So if all this just kind of equates into, at the end of the night, a rather close election, and, what I mean by close is less than 10 points, and Donald Trump concedes, I think he's making a major, major grave error, and I don't think he will. But anyway, my point leading up to all this is simply this. Kellyanne Conway was just saying most Republicans vote on Election Day because most Republicans are somewhat traditional in their thinking. And it is only the progressives and the liberals that try to change how everything happens all the time because it does induce chaos. It does make it easier to sway and to move people en masse in a certain direction when you change the direction. Because one of the big things about politics, especially partisan politics, as we see in society today, is that people are disgusted with politics. They're not excited. They're not. There's no sense of obligation. There's no sense of privilege. There's nothing. It's like, oh no, it all sucks. These people suck. They all suck. They're all crooked. They're all corrupt. It's rigged anyway. Donald Trump, when he said the system was rigged, echoed probably what 90% of America believes, regardless of how fanatic they are in their ideology or their partisanship in terms of party affiliation. Everybody knows that the system is broken, and it's been broken because it's been ignored. And it's been ignored because it has worked to the advantage of politicians to ignore it. And so that's why we have lifetime politicians and people like this. We've got it. Joe and I were talking before the show. We've got to get term limits. I don't know how we're going to do this, but we've got to do it. The way we do it is we've got to get somebody in a position of authority that agrees. We need to elect a president. Maybe Donald Trump can help us get into the term limit thing, because I'm sure he doesn't plan on wanting to be involved in politics for the rest of his life. He can only get 2 terms in the White House anyway. But this guy, I'm sure once he leaves, if he wins and once he leaves, he's not going to be out there running for Senate. He's not going to be trying to pick up a congressional seat. He's going to go back to doing what he does, and that's making billions of dollars building hotels. That's what he's going to do. So, anyway, we're going to be pretty much commercial free today. We're coming up on the bottom of the hour here, about 10 minutes away, and we're going to have, because of the timing of everything, where everybody's living, everybody's residing right now in different time zones and everything else, and I want to give people enough, adequate time to talk.
Yeah, that's nice, John. Speaking of time zones, let's remember, if you hear anything about Florida, remember that the Panhandle of Florida stays open an hour after the rest of Florida polls have already closed there. So just keep that in mind. I mean, that happened in 2000, and we don't need to have a replay of that. So if you're out there, you still got another hour to vote. Polls are going to close here in the East Coast of Florida in about 39 minutes or so. We got an extra hour here in the Panhandle. Just keep that in mind.
Yeah. So here's our challenge for the day. Are we going to start hearing who won the election before we get off the air today? I'm wondering, because this is what it's going to be about. CNN wants to be the first one. CNN always wants to be the first one to call the election. Fox News always wants to be the first one. I picked up this phrase the other day. I'm going to use it. I was listening to Mark Levin, and I forgot about this. MSLSD. That's how he refers to MSNBC. And they're going to, of course, they're not going to be so much worried about who's winning, because they're not into the winning and losing stuff. They're into the paparazzi gossip and all that other stuff. Rachel Maddow doesn't care who wins this election, not per se. Okay, she's just, it's all about bashing people. It's all about destroying people. It's not so much about who's going to run the country. But anyway, so the fight is going to be on. The fight's going to be on. It's going to be it should be no, I take that back. People are saying it's going to be a close election. And I got an email from a listener today. Sent me an email, took the time to write me an email and ask, so are we going to win this thing with the silent T's? And what he's referring to is the number of people that will actually vote for Donald Trump but won't admit that they're going to vote for Donald Trump. Okay. I have no idea which direction this thing is going, and the reason I don't is because I've always thought the polls are out of whack, and of course all the voter fraud. So I have no idea how much are they going to get away with, how much is the left going to get away with, and how accurate are the polls. The pundits, for the most part, most of these people out there in mainstream media have gotten absolutely everything wrong about what they've been reporting for the last year and a half. You think about it. Everybody thought Donald Trump was going to die. We thought Donald Trump was going to die.
Yeah, well, we did. We didn't know how serious he was.
Yeah, but we knew a month in that, hey, this guy's serious. We didn't. Exactly. We didn't sit here 6 months into this thing talking about how he was going to implode and Jeb Bush was going to make a mad dash to the finish. No, we knew Jeb Bush was finished.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we start out like
John. One thing, John.
Yeah, go ahead.
CNN called this race 2 months ago.
I'm sorry?
CNN called this race 2 months ago.
Oh yeah, I was watching. I was doing my little channel surfing thing last night, and it's amazing to me. CNN is not even really talking about the campaigns. They are so locked in to the Electoral College. Everything is about the Electoral College, how it's going to turn out, and nothing really about the campaigns. MSLSD and Lawrence O'Donnell and those people, still talking about Melania Trump, for crying out loud. Like, you know, that's why I say they're into the paparazzi stuff. They're not, you know, it's like, Lawrence, oh, yeah, Melania Trump worked in 1996. She worked here illegally in the United States as a model. Who the hell cares? You guys,
you know who has got the things right in the past few years, actually, is Julian Assange with WikiLeaks.
Oh, yeah, you know what?
Has been found to be false.
I'm glad you brought that up, Joe. I'm really glad you brought that up. I was, just before I came on the air today, I called up a couple articles here. And Assange is one of them, okay? Now, let me see if I kept the article here. Okay, anyway, it's not here. Anyway, the article was about Julian Assange. I guess he did an interview with somebody.
Yeah.
And, you know, the general contention, the general narrative that's been floating around the media is that Julian Assange is a Trump lover. And that he's been targeting Hillary Clinton, you know, because he's just doing everything he can to destroy Hillary Clinton. He was asked in the interview, why haven't you gone after Trump with the same fervor that you've gone after Hillary Clinton? You know what he said?
Yeah, I know what he said.
We couldn't find anything on Trump. That's what he said. He said, we couldn't find anything on Trump. We couldn't find anything on any of the other candidates. You're saying, yeah, he said, you're right. It would be below WikiLeaks' reputation to just be one-sided about this thing, but Clinton's the only one we can find anything on.
And there's a lot there to find.
Yeah. So I'm thinking, you know, yeah, you want to know why? That's why. The Clintons, I mean, we could write encyclopedia volume books on the scandals and the corruption of the Clintons. You know, I saw one today. Somebody had a meme out there that was listed all the Clinton scandals. They couldn't actually put them all on one meme, but it was full. And Donald Trump, they said Trump scandals, called somebody fat.
Yeah, it said bad words about women 11 years ago.
Yeah, that's about it. So, yeah. I mean,
as a private citizen and a billionaire business owner, and directly led to the deaths of 0 Americans.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. So anyway, I thought it was really kind of funny here. Oh yeah, here it is. I got the article right in front of me. WikiLeaks doesn't have dirt on Donald Trump, founder says. WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange today defended the anti-secrecy organization against claims that it has been trying to torpedo Hillary Clinton's presidential bid, saying it simply doesn't have good enough information on Donald Trump or the other presidential candidates to expose them in the same way. We cannot publish what we do not have. To date, we have not received information on Donald Trump's campaign or Jill Stein's campaign or Gary Johnson's campaign or any of the other candidates to fulfill our stated editorial criteria. That's Julian Assange. So he's saying there's nothing out there or we haven't found it. If it's out there, we haven't found it yet. Okay, so yeah, there you go. There you go. Let me tell you what I ran into today. I went down to the gym this morning. And I asked one of the young gentlemen. Well, actually, I went to the polls, turned in my ballot. My wife and I do mail-in ballots, but we only do it every year because sometimes we're out of the country when election time rolls around. And if we're not out of the country, I hand deliver it. I don't mail it in. So I went and dropped it off. And the polling place where I normally poll at or vote at was crowded compared to how it's been in past. It wasn't packed, but it was crowded. Okay, it was enough. The line had 5 or 6 people in it. I've never walked in there and had a line at all. So, and the booths were filled. There was like 8 booths, and they were filled. So people were voting, and most of it filled. A lot of young people. And that's what I noticed. A lot of young people. I went down in the gym, and the people that run the desk behind the desk at the gym are all young people. And I asked one of the gentlemen, "Who are you going to vote for?" And he says, "Well, you know, they both suck." And I said, "Yeah. What are you going to do?" And he said, "Well, I'm probably going to go with Hillary." And I just looked at him. I said, "You got to be kidding me." And he said, "No." I said, "Do you know why?" Not really." Okay, there you go. I said, "Okay, buddy, buck up, sissy pants, because you got another 4 years of BS coming like you've never seen. If this woman gets
congratulations
elected.
On your life's work there, mister.
Yeah. But that's why you're working behind a desk.
Handing out towels at the gym. Congratulations.
And you might as well make a career out of this. Okay.
Yeah. Not that that's a bad thing to do, but if that's how you, unless you're the owner proprietor, gee, really?
Yeah.
And the thing is I don't know.
Yeah.
That's the part that kills me. Then if you don't know, don't vote.
Yeah. Okay, look, we do have to do commercials here. I have to do them at the bottom of the hour because one of our affiliates require this. But when we come back, Bob Cardoso from Robert Cardoso Live will be with us to share with us his views and what he sees going on. Stay with us right here at the Conservative Syndicate.
Ever wonder how the credit card companies make their money? Well, think about this. If you owe $25,000 on 5 different credit cards and you make your minimum payments every month, here's what it's going to cost you. Are you sitting down? You'll shell out over $13,000 in additional interest, and it's going to take over 13 years to pay off your original $25,000 balance. That's how they make money. Now it's your turn to fight back by calling the Debt Solutions Network. We'll work on your behalf to reduce your debt. We specialize in credit cards, retail store cards, and medical bills. We promise we can and will reduce your debt. Call right now for a free 15-minute debt analysis. 800-709-4392. 800-709-4392. 800-709-4392. 800-709-4392.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
When I had a heart attack at 42, I was not sure what the future held. But a year later, the doctors could find nothing wrong with me and took me off all my medication. What did I do? I took a herbal mixture of garlic, cayenne, and a few other herbs mixed in liquid form. I now call this Extendovite. I would have never believed that a few simple herbs could actually change my life like they did. Now it's your turn to see what the powers of garlic and cayenne can do for you. For only $69.95 plus shipping and handling for a 2-month supply of either capsules or liquid, you too can begin on your path to better health. For more information, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822. Or visit our website at heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
I've owned my company for 14 years now, and I can tell you that payroll is a 4-letter word. I hate doing it. It eats up hours I don't have, and it costs me money I could be saving. But my accountant's too expensive, and I'm not sure who to call, but I know I need help.
We're Paychex, and we take all the hassles out of small business payroll. We save you time and money. It's easy. Call, fax, or give us your payroll information securely online, and we take care of the rest. We calculate the correct taxes, manage payments and direct deposits. We even send out your checks. Payroll doesn't need to be a 4-letter word anymore. We're so sure that we can save you time and money that we'll give you a month's payroll free. Just for calling 877-663-3830. Get 1 month's payroll for free. Call Paychex right now. 877-663-3830. That's 877-663-3830.
Hey, I don't back anybody unless I believe in them. And I do believe in the value of investing in gold and silver. And the company I trust to buy my gold and silver from is Swiss America. I've been working with them for nearly a decade. I trust them, and you can too. Swiss America will help you sort through and find the best options available when you're considering investing in gold and silver coins. Listen, for over 30 years, Swiss America has been offering Americans what they want in their investments: safety, liquidity, quality, reliability, and a potential profit. Gold and silver have a place in every investor's portfolio. So, why not let Swiss America help you diversify your investment portfolio now? Call now for free information. 800-978-3907, 800-978-3907, 800-978-3907, 800-978-3907.
If you've got joint pain, let me ask you a question. Would you like a high-quality knee, back, shoulder, or ankle brace at little or no cost? Now, just in case your reception isn't great, let me ask you again. Would you like a pain-relieving knee, back, shoulder, or ankle brace at little or no cost? Well, if you have Medicare insurance, you could qualify for these pain-relieving braces at little or no cost. And these are high-quality braces. They are very comfortable, and they've helped thousands relieve their pain. Now, I'd like you to imagine going on vacation, playing with your grandkids, just living your life again without pain. The Mobility Hotline is a referral service that connects folks with Medicare coverage and other insurance to accredited companies offering pain-relieving braces at little or no cost. And don't you worry about the Medicare paperwork. They'll handle it all for you. And they'll deliver your braces for free. Call the Mobility Hotline now. The call's free. 1-800-557-6150. 1-800-557-6150. 1-800-557-6150.
Don't get your panties all in a bunch.
The Conservative Syndicate.net, exposing weapons of mass distraction. Okay, hey, we're back, and you are listening to the Conservative Syndicate, real conservative talk from real conservatives, and we're going to cut Joe loose because he's heading down to a party or a gathering, an election gathering, and for the election, okay? And that's what we said. There's going to be some of our people calling in from different locales, doing different things, and Joe's got to get on the road here. I don't want him trying to drive and hurry to get there. Did you catch that, Joe? Okay, so apparently Joe's already gone. So now what I'm going to do, let's get a hold of Bob Cardoza and see what's going on over in his neck of the woods. And we got to actually call him. Bob's simulcasting right now. And so, you there, Bob?
Matthews and Joe Hakos. We also have Sean LaFave on the air.
All right, how you doing, my friend?
Hey, I'm doing great. I'm just like the Tiger, Tony the Tiger.
Okay, if you can do me a favor, can you crank your volume up just a little bit?
How's that?
Yeah, there we go. That sounds a lot better there.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, because I know we're talking with you I know we're talking with you via cell phone. So let me start off by asking you: have you made it to the polls yet?
I went to the polls last week. I voted from the comfort of the couch in my living room.
All right, so you did online?
No, I didn't. No. I didn't know you could vote online. I have an absentee ballot. I've had it for years and years and years, and it's just the easiest way to vote. Once Morning and I make up our minds of what we're going to do, we fill in the ballot, we put it in the envelope, sign it, and throw it in the mail. We're all done.
Okay,
that's what I should have done.
Okay, well, we do the same thing over here, but we have been voting absentee ballot for probably the last 4 or 5 years, and the only reason we do it is because sometimes in November we're out of the country, and so we want to make sure we get our vote in. But if I'm here, like I was this time, I actually take the ballot in and hand it in. I actually go down to the polling place. It's just it may be a technicality, but it's just the way I look at things. I'm here. I'm one of these people that believe that we really shouldn't have early voting. So it's kind of like, okay, you need to show up. You need to go down there and punch the holes. That's how I've.
Hey, you know what? To each his own. I'm very comfortable. I missed the election. It just makes it really easy. And you hear all this controversy about people that can't get to the polls or they're not going to vote for one reason or another. And you know what? They've made it so convenient and so easy. I just don't understand those lame excuses at all.
Well, my issue is the fact, given the fact that what we've been hearing here over the last couple of weeks with absentee ballots and early voting ballots being manipulated and moved into secret rooms and re-enveloped and all this other kind of stuff that's going on, especially down in Florida right now. And we just had reports today. Joe was reporting our first segment here, that in Pennsylvania, but they had the same problem in Pennsylvania they had in Texas during early voting last week, that people who are voting a straight Republican ticket, their votes are changing as they punch the ticket. They're going in and saying, okay, I want to vote straight Republican, and they're finding their votes changing to Hillary Clinton instead of Donald Trump. And
did that come in this morning? Did that just come in this morning, John?
Yeah, it's in Pennsylvania. It was just reported about an hour ago. And last week they had the same issue down in Texas. People were complaining that, hey, I'm voting. In fact, there was 2 complaints coming out of Texas last week. One was they're voting straight Republican ticket, and they noticed that the Trump is changing over to Hillary Clinton. Some of the other women, there were actually a couple women were on Rush Limbaugh that called in to Rush Limbaugh's show and stated that when they went to review the ballot after they voted, Donald Trump's name was completely gone from the ballot. So
what happens when you complain about that?
Well, what they've both done, they did in Texas, and they said they did in Pennsylvania, is they went in and recalibrated the machines. Okay, so they're saying,
So what happened? What happened to all the people that voted before they noticed?
Well, that's their complaint. We don't know if our vote got counted. Did you recalibrate it in a way that corrected our vote, or are those votes lost?
The interesting thing is, we've got Sean LaFave on the air with us right now, and his polling place is at Fantasyland at Disneyland in Anaheim.
Yeah, exactly.
How
pretty much how it feels right now.
Yeah, how appropriate.
I went in. I've never done absentee ballot. I've never done a mail-in ballot ever.
Yeah.
I've always gone to the polls. I've always voted at the polls, and so they sent me. And I did not request this, so I don't know what to do with the thing when I got it. But I got the mail-in ballot. It came in the mail. I don't know, it was 3 weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago. And I thought, oh, this is nice, but you know what? I'm going to be here, so I'm not going to mail this in, right? Well, I showed up at the polls today to vote, and they said, oh, you were mailed. They sent you a mail-in ballot. And I said, yeah. And I just kind of assumed that it was an option that you were given. Everyone was given. And they said, well, if you have that, if you don't have it with you, then you're going to have to do a provisional vote. And I go, provisional? I go, what is that? I go, does that mean, they started to explain to me, I said, I know what provisional is. I go, does that mean my vote is not going to count today? It's going to take a few days? And they said, yeah, that's exactly what it means. And I thought, I was so pissed that, I'm not allowed to say that word on the air, but I was upset that they sent this to me. I did not request it. And, and it's something I'm not familiar with because I've never used it. And so now my vote is not going to count today. And I'm just, I don't know, I'm just beside myself with the whole election process to start with. I believe it's rigged. That is, you were talking about the whole thing being down in Texas. Being
Sean, did they offer you?
I'm beside myself. Yeah.
Sean, take a breath. Hey, did they offer you the option of going home, getting your ballot, coming back, and treating it in for a live ballot?
Well, they didn't, but I could have done that. Surely I could have walked out, and they didn't actually vocalize that, but I knew it was an option. However, here's my problem with that: the one day of the entire probably 20 years that this place has been around, they decided today they need to waterproof the walkway in front of my apartment building, and so I can't get into my apartment until this evening. So I'm actually sitting outside in my car to do the show today. But yeah, I can't even get into my apartment. So I thought, you know what, I don't know how long in case there's a mistake. I thought, I'll just do the provisional voting and not worry about, if I can get home and get and bring it in. But it's just upsetting. Like, why did they ship that to me when I never asked for it?
Yeah.
Well, not only that, but how many other places in the country did that happen? Joe, do you do an absentee ballot, or do you actually go down to the polls?
Oh, Joe's not with us. He's heading down to an election gathering. He was with us the first part of the show, but he's got to travel, so he's trying to get down there. But now, Joe, he did absentee ballot. He said he's already voted, already put it in there. But Sean's situation is something I think you really need to report this to officials if you did not request a ballot, because what's happened here, I can tell you what's happened. What's happened is, since we have now allowed people, because Jerry Brown mandated that people who go down and get a driver's license are automatically enrolled. They're automatically enrolled to vote unless they opt out. Okay, so what happens is you'll get a notification from the state that you've been enrolled or you've been registered to vote, and then they'll ask you what party affiliation you want. And so what it tells me is somebody's decided, let's just send everybody a ballot. And because that's one of the big issues we're talking about here. We were talking earlier about down in Broward County, what's going on down in Broward County, down in Florida, Chadsville.
Tell that story, John, because I don't think Sean heard that story.
Okay, well, it sounds very similar to what John is experiencing right now. What happened down in Broward County was they sent out their absentee and their voter registration, early votes. They sent it out with a voter guide. And one of the issues on their ballot in Florida, I believe, has to do with the legalization of marijuana, just like out here in California. That's one of the issues that we're voting on this time around. And so what happened was when people got the voters' guides, the page on the marijuana issue was blank. It was either a misprint or it was left out or whatever. So people started calling up and saying, "Hey, my voter guide is not what it's supposed to be." Apparently, we got a lot of potheads down in Florida, so they're down there. And so the election people down there. This is in Broward County. Brenda Snipes, who is a Democrat operative, very close ties with Hillary Clinton. And she said, okay, well, we'll send everybody new voter guides. But in doing so, they also sent another ballot. So people were receiving double ballots. And so the implication is you're going to let people vote twice. They're going to get their hands on two ballots. She says, no, that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. Okay, what we find out is that there is a massive number in the thousands absentee voter ballots that are being taken into the Broward County election headquarters and being punched and then being submitted as an absentee ballot. And so what we've been able to conclude is some people got duplicate ballots, some people didn't. And the ones that didn't, they took those ballots and they actually created the ballots that they wanted. And this is the GOP people down there are already saying as of tomorrow they're going to be suing. So there's already a lawsuit. The election isn't even over, and they're going to be suing because what they're saying is they have a signed affidavit from one of the poll workers over there that says she saw these people going through stacks of ballots and punching them. And when Brenda Snipes was asked about it, she said, "Oh, what we were doing was we were replacing damaged ballots." She's saying, "No, these are thousands. They were in stacks, and they were."
So, John, let me ask you this. So we need to make the reasonable assumption that this same thing is happening all over the country. If it turns out that that's exactly what's going on, then what happens? Do they set up a new election date? Do they void all of the absentee ballots? What do they actually wind up? And matter of fact, even if you go to the polling place, if the machines are not registering the votes the way you're doing it, what the heck is going to happen here?
Well, I think in the case, we have to go back to the 2000 election. Remember the Chads, the hanging Chads?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
And which just happened to be in Dade County and Broward County. That's why I bring them up. So what has to happen is wherever possible, they have to go in and in the case of paper ballots, they have to actually go in and look. And so what they would be looking, if people are saying, hey, look, I voted a straight Republican ticket and they changed my vote from Donald Trump to Hillary Clinton, they would have to go through each of these ballots and find ballots that have a straight ticket voted and Hillary Clinton instead of Donald Trump. And they'd have to say, okay, these are contested ballots. This is why we've been hearing over the last couple of weeks on the media, the big issue with Donald Trump is what? Will he concede the election without contesting anything? That's what it is. Every news program, the left have been beating this with like a dead horse. They had Kellyanne Conway on the other day, the campaign manager for the Trump campaign. And the first question out of their mouth and the last question out of their mouth was, if Donald Trump loses, will he concede without contesting? Because they know this voter fraud is going on. And if Donald Trump does that, if he concedes, if we look at some of these counties in Pennsylvania, in Florida, in Texas, Arizona's complaining about it. Indiana, they found 187,000 names and birth dates changed on online voting registration in a matter of a month. And if these results come out and they show Hillary Clinton in a landslide when all the pollsters are saying Trump should win Florida by 8 points and he loses, and if Trump sits there, you think Trump is going to go, okay, well, I just give up, I concede? He's not going to do that. He's going to sue.
Hell no, and he shouldn't do that. But
he's already suing Nevada.
let's assume that it is rigged. Let's assume that they get caught. Let's assume that everything is just really, really messed up and inaccurate. Then what happens? What happens to the presidency? Do they have another election? Does the House pick a candidate? What the heck's going to happen here?
Well, if they
what happened between Hillary and Bernie Sanders is exactly nothing is going to happen, and that would be my stance.
Yeah,
I can't imagine that they would do anything about it. They didn't last time. Why would they do it now?
If things follow suit, we'll give it over to James Comey to tell us that there's no intent.
No, exactly. That's exactly right.
Trump has already sued Nevada. He sued Nevada today because they kept their polls open over the weekend past the hours they were supposed to be open.
Well, no, that's not accurate, though, John. What they did, the way the law reads is if you're in line before the polls close, and the polls are still open in Nevada, but if you're in that happened to be on an early voting thing. The thing is that if you're in line before the polls close, the law allows you to stay in line, and they have to take your vote no matter how long it takes. Now, the problem is we don't know how many people came in subsequent to that. They should have put somebody standing at the end of that line at the actual time that the polls were closing to keep any further people from joining the line. I don't know that happened.
Yeah, well, let me give you a good analogy here as to probably, we can speculate about it. Trump is suing because he's saying they kept the polls open. Now, I don't know the details of it. I just read the headline. But here's the deal. Yeah. You remember back in the 70s when we had the gas crisis here in California?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, all right. I was fresh out of the military, and I managed a gas station during that time, all right? And we got to the point where we had to shut the pumps off at 12 o'clock every day. Okay, because that people would line up at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, and we'd pump. They were only allowed 15 gallons. We had the odd and even, everything else like that. And at 12 o'clock, we had to shut everything off. We had to do it. That was just the way it was, because if we did, we wouldn't have had any gas for anybody the next day because the gas deliveries were all messed up. All right, so
right.
Okay, now, just kind of guess what it's like to walk out to the last car and put a sign out there that says last car, and everybody behind it has been sitting there for hours waiting to get in. Just imagine what happens.
Oh, yeah, riot.
Okay, I had 3 different occasions I had guns pulled on me.
Oh, jeez.
Okay, so you're going to go to voters in Nevada or any place else, and people are still coming into the line, and you're going to tell them, I'm sorry, this is the last line, this is the last person? Okay,
I understand the analogy that you're drawing here, and I understand the difficulty of doing all those things. And what I was quoting was what I know the law to be with regard to voting. And whether or not that took place, John, that I don't know.
Yeah, I don't either. I don't. Like I said, I did preface my remarks by we can only speculate what's going on, but I do know that Trump has sued Nevada for allowing the polls to stay open past hours. Now, I don't know the details of that. I just saw it before we came on the air, so I didn't have time to really look at it. So, but the point being is we've got the GOP out in Florida already saying, if Brenda Snipes down there in Broward County does not own up to the fact that they were manipulating ballots, then tomorrow morning we file a lawsuit. She has not done that, so I imagine tomorrow morning there's going to be a lawsuit. And
he should. I mean, the truth is that this is, you know what? If of all the things that could happen, how on earth could in this country we have such a cluster so-and-so that we don't have honest people with integrity at the polls making sure that everything is the way it should be? How on earth can we allow this to happen in this country?
Well, you should know the answer to that, Bob. We have a complacent electorate. We have people that don't give a damn about what's going on. We have people that have taken for granted that the people that we elect are people of honesty and integrity. And what's happened over the last 50, 60 years are the progressives, I equate them to terrorist cells. They do their work. They move an inch at a time. They wait. They know their time is coming. The progressives have been doing this for 50, 60 years, inch by inch, step by step, for the day when they could actually just come out and go balls to the wall and do what they're doing right now. Barack Obama was the point man, the man that they selected in 2008, says this is a guy that we're going to go balls to the wall with. And that's what they've been doing. And the public has been caught off guard, especially the Republican Party. And I don't know if that's by choice, by design, or just, the fact that the Republicans, we're people of integrity, so we just think everybody else is, And we don't, let me give you this analogy. Let me give you this comparison. My name has been put in nomination to become the president of the head of the Conservative Party USA. And I was the people that were vetting me talked to me the other day, and we got into this discussion about the endorsement list of the people, the candidates that they're endorsing in this election, the Conservative Party USA. And I asked him, I said, "What is Darrell Issa doing on this endorsement list?" And he said, "Well, the vetting committee put him there." I said, "Well, then they didn't vet the guy, because this guy is no more conservative than Mitch McConnell's a conservative." And I said, "You know what you did? You guys went to the Conservative Review. You looked at the voting record, and you said, oh, he's got a 75, 80% voting record. He must be a conservative." That's a bunch of bunk, because these guys don't vote as conservatives when it means passing conservative legislation. They vote when it doesn't really matter. Mitch McConnell doesn't even vote half the time because he wants to be able to use the excuse, I want to bring it back to the floor. I don't want to vote because once I vote, I can't bring it back to the floor. Okay, so he doesn't vote. But when he does vote, he votes as conservative when he knows he's going to lose anyway. Darrell Issa, along with Pete Wilson and Mitt Romney, completely hijacked our gubernatorial election back in 2012 when they chose Neil Hashkari over Tim Donnelly. And they did it in 2 weeks. Tim Donnelly had a 23-point lead on Hashkari. 2 weeks before that, Issa comes out, Romney comes out, Pete Wilson comes out, they endorse Hashkari, and he ends up winning the election by 3 points. So I'm saying, here's a guy that is an establishment operative, and you're going to vote for him as a conservative? And that is an example of what I'm talking about. Nobody knows who they're voting for.
But I'm guessing that when you created that controversy, they took your name off the nomination.
I'm sorry?
I'm guessing that when you created that controversy with the board, they took your name off the nomination.
No. He actually said that's why we're looking at you to run the show, is because nobody's doing their job here. That they're changing their entire leadership because some of the people that set up the party originally back in 2008, and they kind of over the last few years have kind of stepped aside because they have other things to do, and they put other people in charge. Those people are not doing their job, so these people have stepped back in and said, "Okay, we're gonna revamp this thing. We're gonna rework it from the top down." So, because it is a very legitimate party. They have an outstanding platform. The infrastructure of the party is excellent. They just put some of the wrong people in charge of it. Because why? They're fellow Republicans, fellow conservatives. They'll do their job. and they're not doing their job. So, there it is. But that's where we're at here. The reason that you asked the question, how did we get here? We got here because we have allowed it to come to this point. And that's what we have to do. We've got to, I hope Trump wins. We can stop the bleeding and maybe get this thing back on the right track. I don't know. I don't know how it's going to turn out, though. So.
But, he's got such a narrow pathway to the White House already. And if you have all this graft going on, it's like the deck is stacked against him.
Well, yeah, at this point in time, one thing we know for sure, whether Donald Trump wins or loses tonight, the Republican Party, for all intents and purposes, is dead. And so now it's going to be what happens to the party itself. And we'll see. The establishment's going to go into overdrive. They've been exposed for who they are. I don't know how. I don't expect them to do a whole lot to help Hillary just because they need to protect their own butts right now. So, maybe it would, as I said earlier, maybe it's best for us that we have a Congress that does absolutely nothing. and listen, okay, because everything they're going to touch is going to turn, to crap. So, we'll see. We'll see how it's going to play out. I know a lot of Americans.
You know what? I think we're going to know. By 8:30 tonight, California time. I think we're going to have a pretty good idea of who the next president's going to be. And if it is a walk-away vote, then based on everything you're telling me, I'm just going to be furious.
Oh, yeah. Well, I don't expect it to be. My gut check tells me, and I could be completely wrong on this could be total bias on my part. My gut check tells me that there's a lot of people out there going to vote for Trump that haven't said they're going to vote for Trump. And I'm hoping that's what happens. I'm hoping that's what happens.
I'm thinking that way too, John.
Yeah, I agree with that. I feel exactly the same way. And I'm hoping that's right.
All right. Well, we're at the top of the hour here, so I've got to cut you loose here. I've got 2 more people coming on. And
hey, John, thanks so much. I really enjoyed this. This has been a good half hour.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Sean, you didn't get more airtime.
All right. I even told Robert in the beginning. I said I'm going to be a spectator for the first half hour, and that's pretty much how it turned out. But it was John. I enjoyed having you on. It was good. It was good hearing all this, and so it's stuff that I'm not really attuned to. So it's good to hear it.
All right.
Okay,
all right.
John. Hey, have a good one, buddy. We'll talk to you next week.
All right. You take care. All right. Okay.
All right.
That was Bob Cardoso from Robert Cardoso Live, and Sean LaFave was one of his contributors on his show. What we're going to do here now, we're coming up, we're at the top of the hour here, going to play a couple of quick commercials, and then we'll be back. Audrey Russo should be checking in with us momentarily back there from New York. So we'll be good. We'll be good. Just stay with us right here at the Conservative Syndicate. Don't go away.
Hey, all you can do is just tell the truth.
There is an old saying, children should be seen but not heard. At no time is this more apparent than when politicians speak. TheConservativeSyndicate.net, the adults in the room. Hey folks, if you're like me, you don't place a whole lot of trust in today's media for the real truth and facts regarding the volatile world of finance and politics. When I want the real scoop on money, I go to the most trusted source I know, my good friend and colleague, Bob Cardoso. Bob is a noted expert with a PhD in international finance who airs his nationally known, globally syndicated show, Robert Cardoso Live Daily, Monday through Friday, 3 to 5 p.m. Pacific Time. With Bob, you get the right information at the right time from someone who knows his business and can help you make the right decisions concerning yours. Again, Bob airs daily, Monday through Friday, 3 to 5 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit his website at robertcardosolive.com for information regarding stations and topics. That's robertcardosolive.com. Check Bob out. You'll be glad you did. History affirms a vibrant civil society thrives on freedom of conscience, religion, and choice. Any society absent these qualities stifles individual responsibility and accountability, thus enslaving its people by denying them their potential for goodness, creativity, and altruism. To that extent, oppression, coercion, and totalitarianism are multiplied exponentially. To counter such outcomes, the American Freedom Alliance was formed. The AFA is a nonpartisan, non-aligned movement which promotes, defends, and upholds Western values and ideals. The Alliance strives to build an international coalition of citizens of the West who together promote and protect moral values, democracy, and freedom. To find out more and become part of this valuable asset in the preservation of freedom and all its rewards, contact us at AmericanFreedomAlliance.org. That's AmericanFreedomAlliance.org. Let freedom ring.
Hey, all you can do is just tell the truth and trust in the American people that over time they're going to know what the truth is.
Yes, it is time for the truth. Right here, right now. This is the Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives. With your host, John Matthews.
The latter-day prophet, weighing against the hypocrisies of our time.
And Joe Akos.
You want answers. I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
The Conservative Syndicate is comprised of some of the most informed pundits and activists available today. Together, we seek to tear down the imaginary wall, a separation between church and state through education, information, and engagement on the religion of politics and the politics of religion. And now, your hosts on the globally syndicated Conservative Syndicate, John Matthews and Joe Hakos.
Okay, hey, we're back. Hour two right here at the Conservative Syndicate, real conservative talk from real conservatives. I'm your host, John Matthews. Joe Hakos, my co-host, is out on the road heading down to an election gathering down there in the Panhandle in Florida. And I'm looking for Audrey Russo to be calling in any moment here. She's up there in upstate New York, supposedly heading also to an election party or an election gathering, and had notified me earlier that she was going to be on a train. I guess she's one of those New Yorkers that use mass transit, and we're expecting her to call in momentarily. At about 10 minutes from now, we'll also have Don Dix calling in. There's Audrey right there. How are you doing today, Audrey? Are you there? Oh, my goodness. I cannot hear Audrey. All right. Yeah, she called, the call dropped here. I couldn't get her on the line here. I don't know what's going on. Anyway, one of the things that we were hearing from the campaign or across the campaigns here. Let's do this. Let me see if I can get a hold of Audrey by calling her. Let's see if I can call her number and get her to pick up, and we'll get her on the line that way. And let's hope that works. I don't know why she wasn't able to call in. Maybe maybe the call dropped for whatever reason out there. Anyway, all right. While we're waiting to see if she answers the phone here, I'm sure you can hear it ringing here. This is live radio, folks. This is what happens. Sometimes it happens. Connections just don't play out the way they're supposed to. Anyway, one of the things that we've been hearing a lot about over.
Hi.
Hey, you there?
Audrey Russo. I'm sorry.
Okay. All right. We'll have to see if she tries to call back. Anyway, back to my point here. One of the things that we have been hearing about, or been kind of covering, maybe off the cuff here on the show, is the perception, the narrative and the paradigm and the perception that the media has been trying to portray that this election is all but over. They've been trying to do it for a long time. Even when the numbers started, coming more, the gap became narrower after the Clinton WikiLeaks stuff started. The FBI was going to reopen the investigation and then decided they couldn't do it. That kind of stuff. And, the numbers began to narrow a little bit in the polls. And one of the things that we heard about or knew about was on Election Day, today, that there was going to be a lot of propaganda put out there by the media trying to use exit polls to determine, to give us the impression that the whole thing is over. And the idea being that if they can get the numbers out there quick enough, it would discourage a lot of people, perhaps, from going down to the polls after work, not making the effort, that kind of thing. Anyway, so that's how that's been working here. And I got a call here from Audrey. She's been trying to connect with us here, and I don't know what the problem is here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to run a real quick commercial here and see if I can get her set up so that you guys don't have to be a part of this technical glitch right now. We'll be right back. Stay with it. Is that her? Is that you, Audrey? Okay, I'm not picking up audio on her at all. So let me see what I can do here. We'll be right back. Stay with us right here at the Conservative Syndicate. There is an old saying, children should be seen but not heard. At no time is this more apparent than when politicians speak. TheConservativeSyndicate.net, the adults in the room. Hey folks, if you're like me, you don't place a whole lot of trust in today's media for the real truth and facts regarding the volatile world of finance and politics. When I want the real scoop on money, I go to the most trusted source I know, my good friend and colleague, Bob Cardosa. Bob is a noted expert with a PhD in international finance who airs his nationally known, globally syndicated show, Robert Cardosa Live Daily, Monday through Friday, 3 to 5 p.m. Pacific Time. With Bob, you get the right information at the right time from someone who knows his business and can help you make the right decisions concerning yours. Again, Bob airs daily, Monday through Friday, 3 to 5 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit his website at robertcardosalive.com for information regarding stations and topics. That's robertcardosalive.com. Check Bob out. You'll be glad you did. History affirms a vibrant civil society thrives on freedom of conscience, religion, and choice. Any society absent these qualities stifles individual responsibility and accountability, thus enslaving its people by denying them their potential for goodness, creativity, and altruism. To that extent, oppression, coercion, and totalitarianism are multiplied exponentially. To counter such outcomes, the American Freedom Alliance was formed. The AFA is a nonpartisan, non-aligned movement which promotes, defends, and upholds Western values and ideals. The Alliance strives to build an international coalition of citizens of the West who together promote and protect moral values, democracy, and freedom. To find out more and become part of this valuable asset in the preservation of freedom and all its rewards, contact us at AmericanFreedomAlliance.org. That's AmericanFreedomAlliance.org. Let freedom ring.
Don't get your panties all in a bunch.
The Conservative Syndicate.net, exposing weapons of mass distraction. All right, hey, we're back, and you're listening to the Conservative Syndicate, Real Conservative Talk from Real Conservatives. I can't hook up with Audrey for some reason. The number is not connecting. I'm getting her message machine. So if you're listening, you probably heard all that. Anyway, I don't know what we're going to do here. I'm not going to be able to get her on here. So let me just put down here that we're not going to be able to do this. So anyway, sometimes that happens. All right. Okay, so we can get back on topic here. We're going to have Don Dix. Don Dix is supposed to be talking here, calling in just a few moments here, anyways. Anyway, Don, try to call. Okay, all right. Anyway, I'm trying to get my ducks all in a row here, talk and type at the same time. Not one of my better skills. But talking about the exit polls, we're going to try to use the exit polls to paint the picture that this whole thing is over. That's the point I'm getting at. I'm looking at ABC News Analysis Desk right now, and certainly enough, that's what they've been trying to do. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to paint out. The exit polls are showing basically that Hillary Clinton has been determined to be the lesser of two evils, and Donald Trump is just, not a good guy. That's really what they're trying to say here. Some of the numbers I'm looking at here. Let's see if the candidates' attributes. All right, much of the campaign focused on the candidates' personal qualities. I don't know if we could say personal qualities. A lot of the campaign focused on their lack of qualities on both sides. All right, if it wasn't Hillary Clinton coming after Donald Trump, was Donald Trump coming after Hillary Clinton, or the establishment coming after Donald Trump, or the media coming after Donald Trump and trying to defend Hillary Clinton, that kind of thing. They're saying here, okay, in the national polls, 54% see Clinton unfavorably and 61% say Trump. See him unfavorably. So I don't know where those numbers come from. When you look at rallies, that kind of thing. And boy, I don't know what's going on here. The Skype is not working the way it's supposed to be. What in the world happened here? What happened with my Skype? All of a sudden it just went crazy, not doing what it's supposed to do. So let me just see if I can open it back up, and let's see if we can get it going right. All right, come on, open up here, and okay, let's see what happens now. I don't know what happened there. Maybe something happened. Maybe when we were talking on the cell phone, or just something. Okay. Let's go here. Okay. All right. Okay. I see what's happening. The phone number is not. They're trying to call the phone number, and the phone number is not answering. That's what it is. Okay. All right. All right. Try. Oh, let's do this. Okay. Let me do this. Let me try to call Don. Let me do that. Let me see if I can get him on. And let's see what's going on with that. Let's see. All right. Let's see if I can get him on here. And,
hello?
Yeah, are you there?
I am.
All right, I don't know. My Skype got all messed up. I couldn't connect with Audrey either for some reason. I had Joe and Bob and everybody else on. I hung up from them, and everything went to hell.
Oh no!
Yeah, well, it just happens. I wish I could find something other than Skype to do this with. But there's some other programs out there, but too detailed and too intricate to use. And anyway, so how are things in your neck of the woods?
Well, it's kind of it feels like a little bit of an anticlimactic day. And it's kind of the calm before the storm, just watching the first little results trickle in. Other than that, I had the day off. We didn't do a show because, of course, Salem goes to their their nationwide coverage of election results when our show normally airs.
Yeah. I know one of our affiliates did the same thing. They told me you'll be preempted tonight because we have extended coverage coming on. Okay, fine. I get it.
Oh dear. All right.
So, well, let's start this way. This is what I've been starting with everybody else here. Have you made it down to the polls yet?
I have elected. I've got my little I vote sticker. I even snagged an I vota sticker for posterity. It was rather quick because I'd already had my sample ballot filled out. Saw some friends and neighbors down there. Ran into someone from the city council. We chatted. Had a nice little delightful time expressing our citizenship through the vote. And then I went and got my hair cut, sat down, and a young little appeared to be Hispanic gal cut my hair, and I said, "So did you vote?" "No, I don't vote. What's the point?" So you can imagine where that conversation went.
Yeah, I had a similar one, but it was because the guy told me he was going to vote for Hillary.
Oh dear.
Okay, I went down to the gym. I played racquetball with about 5 or 6 other guys down there. Every one of them is in the Hillary camp. And all due to ignorance. When you ask them what's going on, one of the gentlemen says, "Well, if we elect Trump, we'll put Bill Cosby in the White House." And I said, "Okay, well, let's elect Hillary Clinton, and we'll put her husband her husband Bill Cosby in the White House." It's like if that's your reasoning, if that's what you're basing everything on, you really just it's ignorance. It's just total ignorance. I know. The young gentleman at the desk at the gym relayed to me, and when I asked him, I said, "Are you going to vote? Are they going to let you guys out to vote today?" And he goes, "Oh yeah." And I said, "Who are you going to vote for?" And he said, "Well, they both suck." And I said, "Yeah, but which one sucks less?" All right. And he's like, "Well, I guess I'm going to have to go with Hillary." And I'm like, "Okay, why?" "Well, I don't know." All right, guy. All right, you're going to just so you know, my young man. I just told him, just so you know, you can count on handing out towels here at the gym for the next 4 to 8 years. All right, because your life is not going to get any better. The guy's like 25 years old.
We're both in a little bit of our own bubble, aren't we? We do the deep dive, not realizing how many people out there, that. They work for a living, clearly, and then how they use their non-work time depends on their family status. If they're married and have kids, what they're going to be doing. They're going to be going home. They're going to be taking care of kids. There's sports. There's homework. There's all that stuff. And if they don't have a family, they work, they're probably going out and playing, most likely.
Yeah.
Having fun.
Yeah.
I doubt most people will do more than toss a casual glance at a CNN while they're in the bar, and all they're seeing are the headlines. That's all they see.
Yeah. It is extremely disheartening. Like I said, I found myself this morning sitting amongst these gentlemen playing racquetball. We're all about the same age. We're all 50 to 65, somewhere around there. And listening to them, and I'm just like, okay, here's the problem. I didn't say it to them, but I'm like, you guys are the problem. How could somebody your age be this ignorant as to what's going on?
Right.
It's just flabbergasting. So I said, okay, so 6-1. 6-2, because my wife's a Trump supporter. Okay, so she was with me. 6-2, 6 for Hillary, 2 for Trump. And even going into the polls this morning, a completely different atmosphere from any other time I've walked into my polling place. Because down here, our polling place is pretty much the same. It's always down at the Nazarene Church down on the corner. And I walked in this morning, and there was actually a line. I've never seen a line there before. All right, so there was a line, but it wasn't a long line, but it was a line. And they had 8 poll booths set up, and the poll booths were filled. So I'm like, oh, okay, so this is going to be a high turnout for this area anyway. And but I would say 75% of the people in there were millennials. So I said, okay, that kind of tells me where we're going here. If we're going to assume that these people are not here protest votes for Donald Trump because Bernie Sanders didn't win, they're probably going to go with Hillary Clinton. And even some of the poll workers were millennials, and that was something I've never seen before. So, you got to give the left credit where credit is due. They know how to work the ground game, and the Republican Party just still kind of sits around trying to figure out which way is up.
Well, they do, and I read a very extensive article about Harry Reid's ground game in Nevada, and they at least from what this article was representing, Harry Reid, he took some lumps back in 2012, 2014, learned from it, and made immediate course corrections. And now, as a result, it looks like Nevada is potentially, Harry Reid's for the picking, because they went out and they started their registration game. They started their education game. They started everything. And now when it comes time to get out the vote, you're going down to Cardenas. It's a long line. Now there's a question. This is one of the first states that the Trump campaign has filed lawsuit in because there was the information suggested that people were being allowed to add themselves to the line after the polls were supposed to be closed. That's the rumor.
Okay, yeah, that's Bob Cardoso was on earlier, and he was asking me that. He says, well, I thought they were supposed to, cut the line off at a certain time and say everybody from here on out can't vote. And I said, well, think about it this way. In this age of political correctness, think about the gas crisis back in the 70s. And I was just fresh out of the military back in the 70s, and my first job out of the military was a gas station manager. I managed a gas station, and I was the guy that had to go out every day at noon and cut the line off and put the sign out that says no more gas. And I told him, I said, now think about that, because 3 times while I did that during that gas crisis, 3 times I had guns pulled on me. And I'm like, so now you're gonna go in and tell people you can't vote? The political correctness, nobody wants their name in a paper being the guy or gal that said these people can't vote. So it sounds valid to me that they would allow people to come in for as long as they wanted to.
Yep. So you have that. Obviously the mainstream media, this has been an extraordinary election from a lot of perspectives, but one of the things that really strikes me, there's a headline that I just passed through I need to go back and read this. But the media is actually worried that people will not trust them on election night, and for good cause, because between what we've learned through the WikiLeaks emails of John Podesta and the DNC, what we learned prior to that from other leaks from the DNC, what Donald Trump has been hammering on and has made plainly visible is that the media is no longer what you used to refer to as the fourth estate, a independent branch of government that's there to report the news equally. They are firmly in the camp of the Democratic National Committee.
Right.
So, but the great thing is the wrecking ball of Donald Trump, and combined with the WikiLeaks and some of the other revelations, has completely exposed that. We all knew and felt that that's the way it was. But what WikiLeaks has done is actually, and the wrecking ball of Donald Trump, every time he did an event, what would he do? He would point to the back of the room and go, there they are, the liars.
Yeah.
Reinforcing it, until finally people are like, oh, yeah, the media, they're the liars. I'm not sure if your guys that you played racquetball with have gotten the message yet, or the memo, but one of the biggest casualties of this election is going to be the media. I don't think, John, that CNN deserves a place at the table in any future debate, quite frankly.
Yeah, well, I even question Fox News at this point in time. I'm like, I don't think any of them are legitimate. I'd like to see the whole debate structure changed. I'd be okay with putting a debate on any of the channels at all, even MSLSD out there, if the format was this, that was set up like this. You have moderators that watch the clock and say, okay, you've got this many minutes to talk or whatever, but every single question comes from an audience member. And the way you pick the audience members is you herd everybody into a room, you draw numbers. Okay, we're going to have time for 10 questions. Everybody pick a number. And these are the numbers that, okay, number 1, number 10, number 20, whatever, you're the ones that get to ask a question. If we had debates like that, then we might be able to get back to some kind of form of actually being able to talk about the relevant stuff instead of the irrelevant stuff, and we could quit going on these little witch hunts and these little gotcha moments and everything else. But in further response to what you just said, though, Don, here's my question. This is the thing I'm looking at, is that, the media, everybody knows that the media's crooked, okay? You call them the fourth estate. I'm thinking it's more like how Steve Garvey used to refer to the fans in baseball, the 10th man on the field, that kind of thing. And right. When this is, we've all known this for quite a while. It's been the dark little secret that people talk about. Yeah, the media is biased, the media is skewed, this, that, and the other. It's now the media no longer pretends and no longer tries to hide who they are. But do you think that for the most part that really is going to affect the common person out there, the electorate? Do you think it's going to have some kind of reverberation, some kind of kickback on it, or do you think everybody will be upset for a few days and then we just go back to normal?
I think that it'll be this. It depends on who the president. Honestly, it depends on who's elected. There's so much up in the air right now. If I would say it goes back to normal if Hillary Clinton's elected, partially because I think that there's a lot of people out there that will literally, a lot of people that see the world, through a conservative lens that will just basically unplug from everything and go screw it. That's my fear also. Because there's a lot of people, out here in California, there's a lot of people that have said, I'm moving out of the state, and a lot of it depends on how some of these propositions out here. We've got guns on the ballot, we've got the death penalty on the ballot, we've got a lot of taxes and money spending on the ballot. We've even got plastic bags and condoms on the ballot out here. So depending upon, and don't confuse the two either.
Well, it depends. Maybe it depends on who's using a condom.
Right. So a lot of it depends, I think, on how this vote goes. And if I know from a lot of the people that I've talked to, if Prop 63, for instance, which is the largely about ammunition, it's the Gavin Newsom collective of gun, more tightened gun regulations. If that passes, then I think you're going to see even more exodus. There's a tax extension, tax the rich extension that's on the ballot. Given the way California is set up right now, I wouldn't be surprised if that passes, because it's not money that's coming out of 95% of the voters' wallets, and they can't think beyond that to realize that once we run out of, the 5%ers' money, guess whose money they're coming after?
Yeah.
They're already doing it with this $2 cigarette tax. So, if you're poor and you smoke, guess what? You're paying a larger percentage tax. They're going to run out of money. They always do. It's the way that things work. They have more money that they want to spend. They have more money that they want to. And out here in California, of course, we have the threat this election cycle of possibly losing or having the California legislature go into a supermajority status, which means that the Democrats control 2/3 of both the Assembly and the Senate, and they can pass whatever tax bills they want to.
Yeah, I know. It's going to be, I feel sorry for these smokers, because it'd probably be cheaper for them to take up crack.
Yeah, and I couldn't even believe it. I saw in one case, it was a pro-Prop 64 commercial saying, let's pass marijuana legalization. It means an extra $1 billion to the state, and we could really use the money. And I'm thinking to myself, you SOBs, you're crying poor again when, Jerry Brown has set aside this rainy day fund of $2 billion, and you're screaming that you're broke again. Come on. We need more money.
Yeah, how is it they keep telling us they have a surplus, but they're always broke? I don't get how this works. I got to interrupt you, Don. We do have to do we do have to do commercials here. This particular affiliate that we have, we are required or obligated to run their commercials. So we'll be right back, and the rest of the show will be commercial free. So stay with us right here at the Conservative Syndicate. I guess I should be able to get their stuff up here. Okay, get it queued up. We'll be right back.
Ever wonder how the credit card companies make their money? Well, think about this. If you owe $25,000 on 5 different credit cards and you make your minimum payments every month, here's what it's going to cost you. Are you sitting down? You'll shell out over $13,000 in additional interest, and it's going to take over 13 years to pay off your original $25,000 balance. That's how they make money. Now it's your turn to fight back by calling the Debt Solutions Network. We'll work on your behalf to reduce your debt. We specialize in credit cards, retail store cards, and medical bills. We promise we can and will reduce your debt. Call right now for a free 15-minute debt analysis. 800-709-4392. 800-709-4392. 800-709-4392. 800-709-4392.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
When I had a heart attack at 42, I was not sure what the future held. But a year later, the doctors could find nothing wrong with me and took me off all my medication. What did I do? I took a herbal mixture of garlic, cayenne, and a few other herbs mixed in liquid form. I now call this Extendovite. I would have never believed that a few simple herbs could actually change my life like they did. Now it's your turn to see what the powers of garlic and cayenne can do for you. For only $69.95 plus shipping and handling for a 2-month supply of either capsules or liquid, you too can begin on your path to better health. For more information, call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822. Or visit our website at heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
I've owned my company for 14 years now, and I can tell you that payroll is a 4-letter word. I hate doing it. It eats up hours I don't have, and it costs me money I could be saving. But my accountant's too expensive, and I'm not sure who to call, but I know I need help.
We're Paychex, and we take all the hassles out of small business payroll. We save you time and money. It's easy. Call, fax, or give us your payroll information securely online, and we take care of the rest. We calculate the correct taxes, manage payments and direct deposits. We even send out your checks. Payroll doesn't need to be a 4-letter word anymore. We're so sure that we can save you time and money that we'll give you a month's payroll free. Just for calling 877-663-3830. Get 1 month's payroll for free. Call Paychex right now. 877-663-3830. That's 877-663-3830.
Hey, I don't back anybody unless I believe in them. And I do believe in the value of investing in gold and silver. And the company I trust to buy my gold and silver from is Swiss America. I've been working with them for nearly a decade. I trust them, and you can too. Swiss America will help you sort through and find the best options available when you're considering investing in gold and silver coins. Listen, for over 30 years, Swiss America has been offering Americans what they want in their investments: safety, liquidity, quality, reliability, and a potential profit. Gold and silver have a place in every investor's portfolio. So, why not let Swiss America help you diversify your investment portfolio now? Call now for free information. 800-978-3907, 800-978-3907, 800-978-3907, 800-978-3907.
If you've got joint pain, let me ask you a question. Would you like a high-quality knee, back, shoulder, or ankle brace at little or no cost? But just in case your reception isn't great, let me ask you again. Would you like a pain-relieving knee, back, shoulder, or ankle brace at little or no cost? Well, if you have Medicare insurance, you could qualify for these pain-relieving braces at little or no cost. And these are high-quality braces. They are very comfortable, and they've helped thousands relieve their pain. Now, I'd like you to imagine going on vacation, playing with your grandkids, just living your life again without pain. The Mobility Hotline is a referral service that connects folks with Medicare coverage and other insurance to accredited companies offering pain-relieving braces at little or no cost. And don't you worry about the Medicare paperwork. They'll handle it all for you. And they'll deliver your braces for free. Call the Mobility Hotline now. The call's free. 1-800-557-6150. 1-800-557-6150. 1-800-557-6150.
Don't get your panties all in a bunch.
The Conservative Syndicate.net, exposing weapons of mass distraction. All right, hey, we're back, and you are listening to the Conservative Syndicate, real conservative talk from real conservatives. I'm your host, John Matthews, along with Joe Hakos, who's just sent me a little message here. Actually sent me a short little video. He's down at a Trump victory party down there in the Panhandle, and it looks like they're already eating buffalo wings, and I'm already hungry now. So anyway, we got with us right now Don Dix from Act for America, does a show out there in the Inland Empire out there, and the Answer 590, and excuse me. How often do you air every day, Don?
Yeah, we air nightly between 6 and 7 on AM 590, The Answer, and then the show again at 5 a.m. to 6 a.m. in the morning. Okay. We're going to actually be doing live election coverage tomorrow morning at 5, so wish me luck getting up at 3 a.m.
Better you than me. I know I'm going to be spending my time tonight. As soon as I get off the air here, I've got to sit in on a couple of panels back east, some of the shows back east.
Nice.
So they've called me up and said, hey, we want you to come in. And so we'll be somewhere around 9 to 10 o'clock back there on the East Coast, which should be about the time we start watching for which network is going to be the first to announce this thing is over. You know, that kind of thing. Which leads me to the next topic here. We're hearing more and more. We've been talking about on this show for the last couple of weeks really hard the irregularities and the number of instances where there's accusations flying about voter fraud. And Joe just, when he came on the first hour here before he had to leave, was talking about in Pennsylvania. They have a situation similar to what was going on down in Texas in the early voting last week. And that is that people are voting a straight Republican ticket and finding their Donald Trump vote is being changed to Hillary Clinton. And they notified the officials down there who recalibrated the machines. And now everybody's kind of wondering, well, since you recalibrated the machines, where did my vote go? And we had the situation down in Texas. We had people that were saying, yeah, I vote a straight Republican ticket, and my Trump vote is being changed to Hillary Clinton. And then some of the people down there were reporting that they were going back and reviewing their ballot before they submitted it, and Donald Trump's name was disappeared. It wasn't even there. And so we have these irregularities in Texas and Pennsylvania sound very similar. We have down in Broward County, an affidavit was fired by a poll worker down there. She filed an affidavit stating that she saw Brenda Snipes and 4 election workers with stacks of absentee ballots sitting back in a locked room punching ballots. And then Dade County had a sudden surge of 53,000 Hispanics all of a sudden decided they wanted to vote. They registered last month in the last minute kind of thing. And so Indiana, 187,000 changes on online voter registrations. You mentioned earlier Nevada allowing people to vote after the cutoff time. All these things are happening here, and I'm just wondering, should Donald Trump still concede this thing if it comes out and they say, well, yeah, Hillary won? I wouldn't.
No, I wouldn't either. And, that's really what his point was in that last, in that debate where, he said, will you accept? And he said, you got to take a look at what's actually happening. I'm just Googling right now election irregularities in Texas, and I'm seeing, like you just said, a lot of news reports with machine snags, major voting problems, being registered as headlines here, errors on voting machines in Fort Worth and Dallas. CBS is reporting that. So, yeah, that's going to be an issue, and depending upon the size of the voting irregularity compared to the actual votes, we might not have a decided election.
Yeah, and I that's the thing, and the screaming and crying, moaning and groaning that's going to come out of the media if that comes down that way. Not that we really should care about it, but it's going to feed into that larger narrative that Trump has just completely corrupted and polluted the GOP rather than the other way around. I just and then when we think about the 2012 election, we had districts in Ohio that had more than 100% voter turnout. We had districts in counties in Pennsylvania where every single vote was for Barack Obama. Mitt Romney didn't get a single vote, and Romney decided, well, I'm not going to contest this stuff. But I would think these irregularities would be enough for me that I would say I'm not conceding anything. You guys got to figure out what actually happened here, and
right.
I hope he does that.
I hope he does too. With 55% of the vote in Florida right now, Donald Trump is leading 50% to 47. It doesn't look like Broward County is in yet, which is one of the counties that you mentioned, but it looks like a lot of the counties are reporting, except for on the the western side of Florida and some of the southern counties. So the initial counts are coming in strong for Donald Trump, but this is anybody's guess until later on tonight. Yeah, I certainly know that if this election goes, like I made wrote up a piece not too long ago about what's at stake in this election. It's national security. It's the rule of law. It's does Hillary Clinton have a mandate to go forward with her progressive agenda? These are the things that are on the ballot this time, and if she is elected, then we look forward to the Middle East continuing to have problems. I don't really know. Can't think of a single reason why foreign policy would change. If she's elected, as the way that she ran the State Department, the pay for play, she's made assurances in the beginning of her tenure at State Department that things would be different, but they weren't. That she signed a document that said I'll deal at arm's length and have everything approved, and we find out it's not. She gave away 20% of the United States uranium production to a Russian company. So this could be a very ugly 4 years if Hillary Clinton ends up occupying the White House.
Yeah, now that leads me to a question here. I want to get your opinion on this because I have found myself floating more and more towards the conspiratorial thoughts of things. I look at things in terms of conspiracies, and the one conspiracy I'm looking at more than anything right now is what the Republican establishment is going to do once this thing is over, because they have been completely and totally exposed for the fakes and frauds that they are. And they're not going to take that sitting down. I've been projecting here that no matter what candidate wins, Congress is not going to be very cooperative with either side. They're not going to want Trump, and they're not going to want Clinton. They'll probably go along more with Clinton because she is an establishment type. But on the other side, they've lost their power. They've lost their power base, and they've been exposed. And so they have to do something to try to reestablish that grip that they've had for so many decades here. And the only way I can see them doing that is to actually put Hillary Clinton in the crosshairs and tie her up in more and more investigations, not with the intent of really resolving anything, but with the intent of using it as a distraction so that they don't have to do anything while they regroup. They don't have to worry about legislation. Mitch McConnell's threatening to not confirm any Supreme Court justice. I can't imagine them not doing that because I don't think they have the balls to do that. But it could be a mess on that side of it, is that Congress gets so tied up with trying to hang Hillary that they don't do anything. My question is, would that be really a bad thing?
We have seen in the past that times when I think the economy does the best is when you have a divided Congress or a divided Congress and executive office, when they can't do anything. Mm-hmm. And I don't know that would necessarily be a bad thing. Like you said, yes, she's going to, and at least people that she depends on, the Cheryl Mills, the Uma Abedins, I think, based on what we've seen, the way that, she's been protected, it's completely plausible that the people that are 1 or 2 degrees removed from her are the ones that end up taking the fall for all of the transgressions that have happened. And she ends up, I think, quite honestly, if Trump is elected, she is going to get a pardon from Barack Obama. Would anybody else enjoy that same courtesy, if you will, in her inner circle? I doubt it, because that would just look completely bad. But I would completely anticipate if Donald Trump is elected, Hillary Clinton gets a pardon. That's,
yeah.
I think, a fait accompli.
Yeah, and that would pretty much kill the whole strategy of the Republican Party, if it's even a viable strategy. Like I said, they talk a lot. They've always talked a lot, and they do very little. The idea is to present themselves as something other than what they are. But I could see, a lot of committees, and Jason Chavez is out there talking about it. Mitch McConnell has mentioned it a couple of times. Paul Ryan even mentioned it. There's some of the people in Congress are talking where the first thing we do when she gets in office is we impeach her. Now, I'm like, there's nothing in the Republican Party, their history in the last 10 years, that would even convince me that they would really even want to do that. It's just, they're making noise right now. But on the other side, like you said, if Donald Trump gets elected, how do you think Congress is going to deal with him?
Boy, that's a good question. Well, first of all, it remained, all the results or anticipated results in the Senate show that is going to be ending. That could end up being a very tight Senate. Republicans may end up with a 51 or 52, seats, a slight majority. Mm-hmm. I don't see Congress completely flipping back into Democratic control this time around, but that's completely plausible in 2018.
Yeah.
With a Donald Trump presidency, the left comes up in force and goes after the vulnerable congressional districts. That I think is completely plausible. Whether they get a majority or not, I don't know. But a lot of the things that Donald Trump is proposing, that he gets a lot of heat saying, he's not a true conservative. But some of the plans that he has put forward are consistent with what the people want. When it comes to immigration, when it comes to trade, when it comes to tax policy, so I would hope that they would be a lot more cooperative with those kinds of issues than they have been in the past. This is, I had on our local congressman in an interview, and I asked him, I said, you guys, what I hear from people is the frustration of having given you a mandate, and yet, little things like funding of Planned Parenthood and funding of certain things, getting the VA corrected, those kinds of things just don't seem to be happening. And I got this really weird sort of, 40% is discretionary, 60% is non. There's not a whole lot we can do about it. Well, isn't the 60% that was considered to be non-discretionary? Isn't that something Congress created? Couldn't it be uncreated?
Yeah.
I mean, these are the kinds of head-scratching things that folks like us that pay attention to this stuff are like, wait a minute, balance your budget. Stop with these continuing resolutions and these omnibus things. Pull this stuff apart. Put these things separately to a vote of Congress. Don't tie it all up in a single bill that can't be pulled apart. I think a lot of the stuff that's done is done specifically for the purpose of being able to create cover.
Yeah, well, I agree, because I think the issue here, when we talk about the balance of powers, the three branches of government were set up so that Congress would be the strongest and that the Supreme Court would be the weakest, and it's been completely turned around where Congress that's the thing you get from them. Well, that's not the way we do things. It's like we don't have the power. We don't have the majorities. You get the majorities. We don't have the president. We got the split here. We got to worry about filibusters. Do we go nuclear? All this, that, and the other. And it's like, I don't think that the Congress today even knows how they're supposed to operate. I mean, somebody ought to tell these guys, read the Constitution and figure out what you're supposed to do here. You guys are the ones that are supposed to be able to use the pen and the phone and make everything happen, not the president and all this legislating from the bench, for crying out loud, And so, yeah, I agree. If you can spend the money, if you can allocate the money to be spent, can you not allocate it to not be spent? It seems a practical question.
Yep, I agree. I have been prepared, and ever since the beginning of this election cycle, because of the media is in the camp of the Democratic National Committee, because Hillary Clinton had what we saw as a strong ground game. I always questioned Trump's ground game in the primary, but because Clinton has an experienced machine, I have been prepared from day one to be able to come to terms with the fact that Hillary Clinton was going to be our next president. And I don't think that's a foregone conclusion yet. There are very narrow paths that Donald Trump has for a victory, and right now looks like Florida is not going in his direction. That was a key state that he needed to get. If he doesn't get that, then he's going to have some challenges here as the night proceeds. So I'm prepared to acknowledge that Hillary Clinton is, odds on our best, our next president.
Right.
The key tell for me, John, was how people were betting with their money, and in all of those forums, whether it was Vegas or online, she was, always ahead 70-30, 65-35.
Right.
And I just think when people bet with their money, that's the thing you got to watch. And so far, it looks like that may end up being the way it goes.
Yeah, well, I'm in the same camp with you. I kind of resigned myself when the FBI thing came out. The reopening of the investigation. This is what was a signal to me, because I didn't fall for this at all. One of the things we said here on the show was this is a ruse. The idea here, and I like to brag about this because Limbaugh was about 24 hours behind me when I said this. I came out and I said, okay, this is what's happening here. This is a distraction. This is something that is going to be done for the purpose of getting everybody's eyes off the WikiLeaks thing. And just before the election, Comey will somehow kind of miraculously go through all those emails and come to. I mean, we almost verbatim what he said, and we knew this was coming down. At that point, I kind of resigned myself to the fact that looks like Hillary's going to be able to get herself in the office here. The question becomes now is what happens with Congress. What do they do? Do they side with Hillary because they don't want to be called sexist now instead of racist, and we just get the same banter and conversation but with no results? And again, I'm not so sure that's not a good thing. I'm hoping. I have kind of enjoyed the dysfunction of Congress, that we don't have to listen to them screwing things up on a regular basis. But again, with the budget and everything else, that's the kind of stuff that upsets me. Resolutions, talking about a balanced budget, talking about repealing Obamacare, all this other stuff, but nothing ever gets done, and we just continue to fund the very things that they keep telling us in their little campaign letters that they want to undo. Every election cycle, hey, we want to do this, we want to get rid of Obamacare, we want to defund Planned Parenthood, send us your money. And then they don't do anything, So I am kind of resigned to the fact that we probably are going to have Hillary Clinton in the White House. I'm just not so sure what's going to happen after that. That's the Supreme Court has been the big issue with me, and the Republicans are saying they're not going to confirm anybody, but I don't see them having the balls to do that.
No, they certainly didn't when it was Barack Obama, and we gave them the mandate. They didn't follow through. That was part of the reason I think that John Boehner lost his seat. It gave up his seat. Nobody wanted it. They bullied Paul Ryan into taking it. Now we've got President Hillary Clinton is going to be a divided. Are they going to bend to her will like they did? It sure seemed like they were doing with Barack Obama. It's going to be an interesting 4 years with a Hillary Clinton presidency. I sure hope we wake up in the morning with a different result, but we'll see.
Yeah, I'm in the same camp here. I think the only real big concern in terms of actual fear that I have at this point in time is whether one side wins or the other. What kind of actions or activity do we see out in the general public? I've been reading articles about militias that are arming and ready, saying, we're not gonna go down without a fight if Hillary gets in there. I can imagine if Donald Trump wins, we're gonna have the Black Lives Matter people out there trying to stir up trouble. That kind of stuff is what I fear the most, is that we have, this gets out in the streets and we end up with some kind of cultural race war or something like that. And that probably is the real fear that I have. Everything else I'm hoping we can somehow get through. Anyway, Don, we're at the end of our show here. I want to just give you a moment here to plug your show and whatever it is you're doing.
Well, thank you very much, John. Folks can tune into our show via the internet on AM 590 The Answer, 6 to 7 West Coast time, again 5 to 6 East Coast, and then other than that, they can keep track of what's going on from a national security perspective on actforamerica.com. And sign up to get those alerts that come out from Act for America by becoming a member there on the website and signing up for our emails.
All right. Thanks so much, my friend, and I look forward to talking to you after tomorrow. All right, guys, we're done for the night. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, 3 o'clock out here in the West Coast, 6 o'clock on the East. And, just hang on. It's going to be a wild ride, one way or the other. God bless you. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in to this edition of the Conservative Syndicate, the nationally acclaimed, globally syndicated, politically incorrect talk show that seeks to tear down the imaginary wall of separation between church and state. We want to make you aware you can find and access all our show archives at our website, theconservativesyndicate.net, as well as our broadcast stations and times. That's theconservativesyndicate.net. We so appreciate you taking the time to tune in, and we so look forward to continuing to bring you the best in uncompromised talk radio available on the net today. And remember, folks, it doesn't matter how many times you get knocked down in life. It only matters how many times you get up. I'm John Matthews, along with Joe Hako, signing off until next time right here at the Conservative Syndicate. God bless you, and may God continue to bless America.